Greetings. In this presentation I am going to discuss the important topic of reading construction drawings and take a look at this project example, the Delhi Flower and Garden Center, which is a real project, and these are the construction drawings for it. If you Google the Delhi Flower and Garden Center, you could find it. Here it is. It is in Ohio, and it has been constructed, and it looks like this. It is it's prefabricated greenhouses, and it has a this kind of decorative front to it with this exposed truss and stone veneer piers. And then here you can see the atrium. This is inside the atrium. The picture's a little fuzzy. So it's kind of a modest building, but it's a kind of complex in that it's a variety of building types. It has these prefab greenhouses connected with kind of a big box store as well. So a variety of building types going on. I'm going to flip between two different presentations, one presentation on the subject of construction documents, and then I'm going to flip back to the garden center construction drawings that I have. This comes with from an educational set, so that's what all this on the corners is. It's from a book. It's from a great book about reading construction drawings, and it comes with multiple projects. So that's what that all references. This is not actually part of the drawings. So what I have for this is a few civil drawings, and we're going to talk about the title blocks. So there are 3 civil drawings looking at the site plans and site details up front. And then there's a cover sheet, and here we see an index of drawings. And I'm not going to zoom in now, but it's basically architectural, structural, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing drawings. And we see down at the bottom right that we're right now in the architectural, the A drawings. And we're going to flip through this project as I begin this presentation on the subject. Okay, so architectural drawings, what are they? What are they? What's the intent of them? So the intent is to develop a design idea into a coherent proposal, to communicate these ideas with other team members, convince clients of the merits of an idea. This especially, you usually don't make construction drawings before this. This would be more like schematic drawings. This is what construction drawings are all about, enabling the contractor to build the project. A record of the completed work, yes, and to make a record of a building that already exists. So survey work, very important here in Philadelphia, where there's a lot of old buildings that need to be renovated. So those are some purposes of drawings. How do we communicate with drawings? We have a couple of different tools in our toolbox. So we have different drawing types. We have line types, line weights, drawing hatches, and annotation are the big 5 tools that we use. These are our standard drawing or elevation types, drawing types we could call it. So here we have a house, so we rely on plans, such as the floor plan. We have architectural elevations, building sections, so another elevation here. And then we also sometimes use three-dimensional axiometric or isometric drawings as well. So an architectural drawing, in short, is one that has no perspective. So it is just a flat, I call it a privileged view. It doesn't really exist in real life. Everything is perfectly flat. It's not like we're standing on the sidewalk and looking up at the house. We can't see any windowsills, and we can't see any horizontal surfaces. They just look like straight lines, essentially. Everything has been flattened. We have line types. Okay, line types here. So in CAD, in all software programs, we have different line types. They come, and these line types mean very specific things. So we don't just go into CAD and pick whatever line we think looks good. All lines have specific meanings and and fall in construction drawings in specific places. Line weights, this is a little more subjective. There are some standards. Darker things are what we've cut through typically. So let me just go back here. So here's our section. These darker lines here we've cut through, and the floor plan too, we've cut through these walls. So that typically would be thick lines, not extra thick, but thick lines. But then after that, it gets a little more subjective exactly where these are used. Okay, our next tool is or are drawing hatches. So hatches, again, very specific, and hatches are different at times in both section and in section plan or elevation. They could all be very different for that matter. So this, for instance, insulation, that's a rigid insulation hatch, which is in section, only in section, for instance. So, and these are metals, which we don't use as much in in buildings. We don't zoom in and typically see metals that much. But again, they're very specific meanings in all the drawings that they show up with, and AutoCAD comes with tons of them prepackaged, but we don't just go in and choose what looks good. They have very specific meanings. Okay, then moving on to annotation. Very, very important, and that is our dimensions and text. So here's a detailed plan of a bathroom, and we have text telling us what to do, and of course we have dimensions and nice neat dimension strings. And here's a symbol with some text as well. That's not really the annotation, that belongs to the symbol. But anyway, annotating, learning how to properly annotate neatly, clearly, efficiently, without confusion is a super important skill for any designer. And of course here we see plan hatches telling us what that is, which I would expect to be a masonry wall, but a lot of good drawing sets, thorough drawing sets, come with the on the cover page. They'll list all of the symbols and all of the different hatches, so that nothing is mistaken. Because in our business, a misunderstood hatch, misunderstood annotation could result in a lot of money and a lot of headaches, to say the least. Okay, so that's the top 5. Those are our biggest tools. All right, on to the next very important topic is drawing set hierarchy. So this refers to, I already zoomed in a little bit here. So here we are on the cover sheet, and back to the cover sheet. And what we have, actually, first let me show. So we had some civil drawings up front right here, and these are numbered. Again, this is an academic set. So it's not a complete set of drawings. So this says 1 of 7, 4 of 7, 5 of 7. So there are 7 civil drawings that were released, and that's probably what is here in this title block would tell us that. Civil drawings often precede the architectural set because they go into the township or the borough or the municipality, and they try to get permission. They want to get approval to build this thing, and the owner would only invest in the civil engineer up front, and they would say, this is where the building is, this is the size, this is how much parking we fit on here. So the civil drawings often go first, they get approved, and then the owner will invest in the architectural and engineering team. No sense in designing a building if you don't have permission to build it. And then that's what begins here with our cover sheet, or A01. And then we zoom into our index drawings, and here we have some, so we don't have that title sheet, I don't think. That would be very good with the code review. Here we are with supplemental specification. So this is kind of like our cover sheet where we are in our drawing index. Point being, these are our architectural drawings, all these A drawings, followed by the S structural drawings, followed by plumbing, mechanical, and electrical. And that is what we are referring to here in the hierarchy of disciplines. We'd call disciplines. Architecture is a discipline. Interiors is a discipline. So these are the discipline kind of designators, I would call them. In residential commercial buildings, what we typically will find is civil that we just discussed, landscape occasionally if it's involved, definitely in a bigger project. Again, structure, architecture, interiors maybe. I've never worked on a job. I've worked with interior designers, but we just don't break out the sheets as I sheets. That would have to be a really big job, I would think. But so often, like same with like geotechnical. Those are the engineers that come study the earth, do boring tests, but they don't actually usually make drawings. They give their report to the civils and they incorporate it. Same way, interiors will often do their work, and their work ends up on architectural sheets, incorporated into the architectural sheets. For smaller, more modest projects, that's what you would expect, really. Plumbing, mechanical, and electrical, and those are the most common ones for commercial projects. That's what this is, the discipline designator. And so this right here, AANNN, so those are, the A's are referring to the letters here, alphanumeric, and the N's are referring to numbers. So, again, that is here, and that's A. So here we know we're in the architecturals, and then we're going into 1.1, and that's what this is going to discuss. Now it's going to discuss the numbering system for common architectural architectural sets. Let's just zoom in a little bit here so we could take a look and see how this one holds up to the theory that we're seeing here. Okay, so here is our disciplines. So that's our first letter that shows up. Excuse me. And then there is here a second level discipline designator. Again, I've never worked on such big jobs, and I've worked on some pretty big jobs, to the tune of $3, $4, $5 million jobs. But we don't break out, even if those jobs have 100 sheets, we still don't break them out like this. So this more modest set that we see here, this is really, or this kind of hierarchy that we see here is typically what most projects will have. But anyway, we have architectural, and then if we wanted to break it down further, we could continue on site, demo, interiors, etc. But typically the first A letter is enough. Then we get into our numeric designations. So this is overall hierarchy strategy. So 0 is for general, and we saw that. That's where we are on this sheet. We're on our 0-1 sheet, supplemental specs and supplemental specs. So there are 2 sheets of written specifications. All of that, that's what this is. And that's our general information, or A0 series. So that's the A0 series there. And then we're going into the A1s, which will be plans, A2s, elevations, A3 sections, zooming in on plans, details, schedules, diagrams, whatever you need it to be. And then 3D representations, I've never seen that. We don't put those on construction documents. If it's not, that doesn't tell someone how to build something. That just shows them the effect that you're going for, really. How things get put together has to be described in 2-dimensional drawings, typically. Excuse me again. So, plans 100, elevations 200. And that's what we have here. A1, A2, and A3. So, sometimes it's A1, and sometimes it's A100 or A101, depending on the number of sheets. For such a modest project as this, they're not going to call it A100. They're just going to say A1. Okay. Okay, moving on. And then the numbers continue. So that's what it's saying here. So that's our A1. And then sometimes people will just go right into 100, 101. It depends how big the set is. If it's only a handful of drawings, there's no reason to make it 101, 102, etc. And this is an example that looks not too different from our own. So we have a cover sheet, cover sheet and notes. So we don't have these drawings, but a cover sheet and a notes and symbol plan explaining all of those. That's very good practice. And that's all in the 0 drawings. The 100 drawings, so this is the 100 series, right? So here it's just A1, but here, even though it's such a small thing, they're still saying it's the 100 series. So rather than 1, they make it 100. So when discussing it, designers will say the 100 series or the 100 drawings. And that's where you'll know to go find the plans. So if somebody says, what's the exterior elevation? Then you say, oh, go check the 200 series. Sections, building and wall, plan details, and then into schedules. So nice and clear, makes sense. And in general, the floor plan, well, first let me say, in general, we go from very general down to very specific, okay? So the floor plan is kind of like a big map for everything that's going to come here. And we're going to see that as we go through the drawings. All right, so in general, we go from, again, very general down to the specific. If the set is really well coordinated, and the architects have typically the architects hire the engineers, structural, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and if the architects do a good job and coordinate everything, then all of these sheets would all have the same information, first floor plans. So we have S101, A101, M and E101. So if we look at our set, do we see that? So we have A11 is the first floor plan. Here, so yeah, not exactly. And structural engineers look at floor plans differently than architects do. They have very different formatting things going on. So here they have 3 plans, but their S11 begins at the foundation and not the first floor, which makes sense because they're structural. P11, plumbing plans, M11, first floor mechanical, E11, first floor lighting. So consistency overall. Okay, title blocks, very important. I'm not going to delve into this too deeply. I'm going to have to be kind of quick about it. So in general, yes, they could be horizontal, running across the bottom. They could be vertical, running here. They contain a lot of important information. It's really a whole lesson just on how to manage your title block, kind of. Some information on the title block is project specific, or is project wide, and some is sheet specific. So it's important to understand that. So typically, all of this general information is project wide, meaning it doesn't change, and every sheet should contain that. Down here, we can't see it. Actually, let me just jump over to ours so we can see something. And that's what this is. So this is project-wide title. This doesn't have designers on it. So designers here, that looks like designers to me. That is all project-wide information that should be consistent from sheet to sheet. Sheet-specific information is here. And this is a very important lesson for young designers especially. This is the history of this sheet and the dates that it was released on, and the purpose of those releases. And it's important to young designers because young designers start as draftspeople and they have to manage this, and it's a very important chore. Because it's important. Unfortunately, it's important because when projects have problems and go to litigation and lawsuits happen, it's very important to understand when these drawings came into being and what information they contain and what information changed. So if anything that changes, and this set doesn't have any revision bubbles, I don't think. I'll keep my eyes open. But as you're drafting, revisions get clouded and added with revision numbers, so that these architectural sheets that were released at this early date, they were re-released at this date, and if anything changed, it has to be noted at that point. And then the title got re-released later, and then the engineers were added at those later dates as well. But this is a very keeping track of all the sheets and all of the information on the sheets and when exactly it's published, meaning that it's given to the client or it's given to the township, is very, very important and tedious. It's also very tedious. That's the importance of the title block. And, of course, sheet names and art designations. So I'm going to go, I'll talk about this super quickly. So there are many symbols that are involved, and there are many conventions for labeling rooms and the doors that open or open into hallways. So when we identify these doors, does it belong to this? Does it belong to this room, or does it belong to this room? A lot of little pieces to keep track of. A lot. Column grids are used by structural engineers. They help lay out the structure and are good references for dimensions. There are a lot of different types of symbols. So there are about 6 here that are listed. Objects, materials, text, identity is the door. Is there more coming on this? Yeah, so more is coming on this. So I'm going to keep going. Reference symbols are, this is important, especially this one. So as we go through the drawings, we're going to see call-outs. That's what we call this. We call it a call-out, and there could be this could be at the corner of a building, and it says, go to sheet A512, drawing D2, and find that corner. So that is what I meant when I said the plan at the beginning is the roadmap for everything that follows, and it's these symbols that point, that create that roadmap, essentially. There's our column grid, graphic scales, always important so we understand the size of things. Keynotes we'll maybe see, that's when they're pointing to specific things within drawings, and identifying rooms, very, very important. Different types of lines, there are dozens and dozens of them. You don't need to memorize them. Just know that you can't pick them and use them however you want to. There are resources to go and find exactly what the line type should be, and that's what we use. Symbols are for objects. Plumbers, electricians, and mechanical engineers use a lot of symbols. Architects and interior designers, less so. But when you're putting together systems, MEP systems, mechanical, electrical, plumbing systems, you have a lot of tiny little objects that you don't draw. You just make it a symbol. These are architectural symbols, doors, showers, and furniture. Material symbols, hatching, we talked a little bit about that. So what materials look like, plan, elevation, and section, right? So that is wood in section, that is earth in section, finished woods, this is all sections. These are all done in section, right? But brick looks very different in elevation. Sometimes you could put wood grain on an elevation and framing, but it's a little odd. There are conventions for presentation drawings, and then there's conventions for construction documents, construction drawings, which is what we're focused on. And these are just some nice drawings that I'm not going to jump into. Okay, so with that, we talked about the civil. We've gotten to A1. We've had a quick overview of our drawing set, and we see what's coming up. Here's our team. All the engineers that are represented below are represented above. And then these are what we call the written specifications. So not all of this information could or should be in drawings. We don't want to clutter drawings. It's very important that drawings are as clear and concise as they could be. So the information that you're going to find in here is not appropriate really for drawings. And in very big projects, the specifications, these things, come in booklet form. You don't read them on a sheet, but if you only have 1 or 2 sheets, you don't need to make a book to accompany it. This will suffice for our project, our greenhouse project. Okay, then without further ado, let's delve into our floor plan.